What's up, everybody? This is Cole Boling with the Boling Group at Keller Williams Realty, One Legacy Partners here in Topeka, and you are listening to Topeka Business Uncensored. Here we go. Hey, everybody, this is Cole Boling with the Boling Group at Keller Williams, One Legacy Partner, and this is Topeka Business Uncensored, where we interview local business owners about their business and kind of just get their information out there to you, the listeners. Today, I am a good buddy of mine is here. Guy Compton is the owner of Ozark Pest Control. And what's up, dude?
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, man.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. We got him in the office today. You know, this is with COVID and everything else that we've all been facing. Getting these face-to-face live appointments have been almost non-existent for the last 2 years. One of the reasons that I kind of put off building up this podcast is because I did want more and more face-to-face interviews. But there is people that can and can't do that. So today I brought my buddy in here, and we're going to talk about his business, showcase his amazing world that I don't think a lot of people really understand as much as we want to believe we do, the whole world of pest control. So first off, welcome again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your business, what it is, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Well, our business is Ozark Integrated Pest Service. So we started in 1978. My dad started the company as a retirement supplement. He retired from Hallmark cards early.
Okay.
So his plan was to do pest control on the side and, obviously supplement retirement. So give him something to do when he was retired. But the business grew faster than what he expected, and he decided to do it full time.
Okay.
That was many, many years ago. So
I actually met his dad before I met him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we had a boat. My parents had a boat, and his parents had a boat, literally in the slips across each other. And that's how we really, yet you guys were in Oakland for many, many years. I lived in Oakland for many, many years. So we all kind of knew each other, but didn't know each other until really then.
Boats
So
bring people together. It
is amazing how they do. Yes.
So and we, like I said, we do pest control, obviously. Just like you would see on, I don't want to say see on TV, but just pretty much what you have in your mind, what pest control is what we do. We take care of the nasty things people don't want in their homes or businesses. And, there are some areas we don't venture into, like we don't do lawns, things like that, but we try to keep it to structural pest control.
Like when you say you don't do lawns, like you're not spraying for the bugs in the yard and like the mites and the ticks and all that outside. You'll do like around the perimeter of the house, but not the yard itself.
We don't do the yard itself unless, so we have licensing restrictions or requirements. So for us, well, we could do lawns if we got the license to do lawns, but we don't choose to do that. We are licensed to do mosquitoes and ticks.
Okay.
Specifically. So if in order to control your issue in your yard, we had to do the whole yard for ticks, mosquitoes, then we would.
It would fall under what you can already do.
It would follow,
okay.
But we can't do like grubs because those fall under a turf license, which, obviously a lot of your lawn and landscape companies handle that stuff. So.
Okay. I got you. So you would say like you're focused more on the actual structure of houses.
Correct. Anything that's going to come into a building or a house, that's what we control. And with that license, that particular license, we are only allowed to go out so many feet from the structure to control that problem.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which that's really all it takes. If they're out in the yard and they try to get in the house, if we can cut them off before they get in, then we're doing our job.
So that would be like mice, probably mice, traps.
Yep. That includes rodents. Rodents is kind of a big spectrum, but mice and rats is specific to what we do as well.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do wildlife control currently. Again, that's another licensing.
So is that when you say wildlife control, like snakes and like raccoons,
Right.
or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay.
snakes, raccoons. I mean, squirrels, get in the attic sometimes. We do bats if we,
Okay.
on occasion. Like I said, on occasion, sometimes those require an extensive amount of equipment for us and that we don't have access to. So we'll evaluate it first to see if we can do it. If not, we have people we can refer to do that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I know from my personal experience, my wife and I just built a brand new construction. And when I was coating my garage floor, I had a little bit of that really heavy duty, I'll just say paint. It's a different kind of product, but it got on the sill of the garage door and it just ripped a tad bit. And then the mice started chewing it and chewing it and chewing it. And they made this little tunnel. And I had like brand new home, mice in my garage like crazy. Now I'm in the country.
It's in a field.
I call
Yeah.
you come over, and within 2 weeks, I probably saw I was getting them every day. And within 2 weeks, it was about every 3 days. Within about a month, it was maybe once a month. And now very, very rare. I've got the sill fixed and everything. And so I do know personally from my own experience, not any of my real estate experience,
Right.
a personal experience, that it doesn't matter if you have an old 1920 house to a brand new construction. Mice do try to get in there.
They do.
They do.
They do.
And you guys were great. They came out, set the traps, set them up, and just my peace of mind around it was huge.
And I got to crawl around your attic. That was
fun.
nice. Thank you.
Fun. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
that.
Yeah. It's nice when the owner comes out because you got that pole.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I have to go out. My guys are good. All my people, they're good, but sometimes, just like anything, a second set of eyes on the problem, sometimes can be beneficial for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't do that all the time, but if a friend of mine or somebody that is having an issue, then I'll go out there and take care of it. That's what I do. That's what we do. So
absolutely. So in terms of real estate, one of the conversations we have to have with almost every one of our transactions is termites. Right. So talk to us a little bit about what is a termite, for one,
right?
How common are they, for two, and where in a process of the home do you really recommend either treatment or preventative treatment or things like that?
Sure. So basically, termites are a wood destroying insect. The ones we have here in Kansas are what they call subterranean, which means they live in the ground. They live in the soil. And that's where their main colony is at. And when their life is basically just find cellulose or a wood product, find it, eat it, take it back to the colony. And obviously your house is made of wood, and even steel structures have partitions a lot of times inside them, for the room partitions that are made of wood.
Okay.
So to think that a steel structure is not going to get a termite issue, it can. And now it may not cause structural problems, but obviously it's going to be a nuisance, or it's going to chew on your sheetrock or whatever it may be. So
do they eat sheetrock?
Oh, they eat the paper on the sheetrock.
The paper on, okay.
Right. So the backing, they will eat the backing on the sheetrock.
New there.
Yeah. So a lot of times when you go into a home or a business that has a termite issue, you'll see some paint imperfections or some areas that something just isn't right. It looks like it's caved in a little bit. That's from where the termites have eaten the paper off the sheetrock, and the paint just kind of is sucking in at some point. So
that, I got to tell this story. So many years ago, I was selling a foreclosure home, and I always say I should write a book about all the different things I've seen in this business.
Yeah.
Was in a foreclosure home. House had been vacant for probably 2 years. Walked in this bedroom, and I look across the room, and it was paneling. It was the old 1950s, 60s, 70s paneling. And there's this one circle that it just looked weird.
Right.
And I'm like, what is that? And my clients are like, that's kind of a weird looking thing. And I walk over and I'm getting real close. And I can't tell what it is. And I go up and I tap it. right?
Right.
And it crumbled like sawdust. And then all of a sudden termites. I mean,
Yeah.
they were everywhere on the backside of the paneling.
Yep. Yep.
And I was like, like immediately I'm like, let's get out here. Cause
Right.
if it had gotten that far, I mean, what's the likeliness that the structure was probably in jeopardy of having some issues?
Well, when it gets that far, then obviously it's a good question. So for us, we can tell you if you have termites, we can tell you approximately, how bad the problem is. Structurally, we try not to get in that conversation because we don't want
not engineers.
Yeah, we're not engineers.
And
we don't want people to, say, hey, the pest control guy said it's a minor problem when the entire wall is having issues. So we have opinions towards it though, so like in that case, I would say that there's probably a significant amount of damage to the wall studs behind that.
Mm-hmm.
But termites act in such a weird way. Sometimes they will go in and eat, we'll say they'll consume something like that, a big area of a sheetrock, the paper on the sheetrock or the paneling, and not even hardly touch the stud behind the wall.
Really?
And sometimes it can be based of, it's not all wood is good wood to termites.
Okay.
Right. So it's like steak or hamburger for us. They go for the good stuff first.
Okay.
And then they will start, the harder the wood, like some of your houses that were built in the 1800s or early 1900s, some of the floor joists and the wood in those things is extremely hard wood.
Is that like yellow pine?
I don't know what they built back then.
A lot of it was a yellow pine, which you don't use today because you can't really drive a nail into it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would, and the harder the wood, the less susceptible it is to a termite issue.
Okay.
They will still eat it though. We've even had termites. I've seen multiple occasions where termites are found in railroad ties. So even with all the creosote in the railroad ties, once the railroad ties get to a certain age, that creosote kind of goes away.
What is the creosote?
It's a treatment they use. It's a treatment they use on the railroad ties to it's almost like a tar.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay, so
sure.
But they've been in railroad ties. We found them in railroad ties. People think that putting out cedar mulch or that they won't get into cedar, and they absolutely will get into cedar at some point. Just because over time it deteriorates, it loses its repellent factor, and termites will get into it.
So is this a myth, or because I've heard this before, is that you really, when you put mulch out, you are attracting at a higher rate termites towards your house?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely can be true. When you put mulch out, basically what you're doing is you're putting a food source on the ground for the termites. Obviously wood to soil, in my industry, anything that has wood to soil contact is conducive to a termite problem. So you go throw a bunch of mulch out on the ground, that's like going out and throwing down popcorn for the birds or something,
Okay.
Eventually they're going to get into it, just a matter of time.
Sure.
Also, mulch can create other issues with ants. A lot of people, when they do mulch beds, they will, over time, they will keep piling it and piling it and piling it. And what that does is creates a good weed barrier, quite honestly, but it also creates a crust to where all the insects can live up underneath that, their own little ecosystem.
Yeah.
And they enjoy it. Ants is a big thing for us.
Ants.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about ants.
Yeah.
You find that probably on your regular pests, like probably one of your highest calls is probably ants, right? Mice, ants.
Yeah. So
outside of the real estate transaction, we're
right.
talking about termites, but
right. This time of year specifically, it's ants and termites. The moisture for both of them, they both need moisture. They both thrive on moisture.
Okay.
And obviously the warmer weather coming out, they're getting out doing their thing. So this time of year is a big deal. Now there's a lot of people mistake ants for termites.
Sure.
There's some misinformation out there, or misconception that anytime somebody sees something that looks like an ant with wings, they think it's a termite automatically. Ants do have wings. Both insects, If you see them with wings, those are the reproductive members of that society.
Learn something else new. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Because I've probably been one of those people who are like, I think that might be a termite because I see them, flying around, or not even flying around, but just have the wings on. Because do they fly? The ants fly, or they just have the wings?
They'll
Is it
fly
like a
as well.
protection thing?
Yeah,
Oh,
they'll fly
okay.
as well.
Gotcha. Talk to me a little bit about like service plans, or even like I know, like with my wife and I, we have you guys come out. I think it's quarterly, but you guys offer different service plans.
Sure.
What does something like that look like?
So we have, for residential customers, typical residential customers, and I say typical meaning, if you just have general pest problems like ants or crickets and spiders, things like that. We do bi-monthly, which is every other month, or we do quarterly, which is every 3 months.
Okay.
Our plans have different pricing structures with them. But all of our plans come with a free, what we call a free recall or a free callback. So if I came out to your house today and we weren't scheduled to come back out again for another 3 months, if you encounter an ant issue or a mouse issue, right,
Okay.
at any time, just call us and we'll come back out at no charge and take care of that problem.
Oh, okay.
The only thing we don't typically come back out for that we can't really control with what we do is flying insects. So like if you have a couple flies in your house, we typically are not going to come back out because most of our treatment methods are down low. We treat entry points, but like obviously a fly can fly in a door and there's nothing nothing we can do about it.
You get a bug assault.
Yeah, exactly.
Those
are amazing.
Oh my gosh, I love my bug assault. My
Yeah.
kids think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's just like you put salt in this little, it's a gun, and you cock it and put the salt in there, and you literally shoot them. And I mean, I have taken out more. I mean, nothing makes you feel more manly than being able to take out a fly with a gun, right?
Absolutely. Put me out of business. Put me out of business.
I want to bring up the new construction stuff. So when we built our house, we had Ozark come out and pre-treat for termites.
Correct.
Talk about what you did on my house and what that looks like in a new construction process.
Well, so new construction, obviously the concrete goes in first. So they do the walls and then they do all the flat work. They prepare all the flat work. So if you have a basement, they're going to come in, put all the plumbing stuff in, put the sand back in there or gravel, whatever they use. There's really two different types of pre-treats. It used to be we'd come out and we would put out 300-400 gallons of chemical. So we would treat around the foundation walls, both sides. We would treat the flat work. And then when you do all the backfill, we come in and treat the backfill. Now what we've started doing is kind of I think we're probably the only ones that do it around here, but we do a wood treatment. So we'll go in and we'll treat the lumber portions, specific portions, not all lumber, but areas that come in contact with the concrete, at ground level.
It was like about 2 feet up, maybe.
Yeah, we do 2 feet up. There's an actual method to it. So 2 feet up, depending on where you're at. If you have a basement, we do the floor joist, and we do so many feet out from the foundation on the floor joist. Basically, what that is, it's the chemical we use is called Boracare, and it's a boric acid type chemical that we apply to the wood. The wood absorbs it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the termites, if they come into the house, they will try to feed on that wood and it'll kill the termite. There's an argument that the termites, you don't want the termites to get that far, right? To get into the house and start chewing on the wood.
Right.
And then it only kills, really you don't want termites feeding on the wood, period.
Sure.
So what we've done is we've kind of done started doing a hybrid treatment to where we also, we do that treatment, but also any what we call conducive areas, we will treat with a chemical called Termidor, which is the silver bullet for termite companies right now. It has been for quite some time.
Okay.
So for example, termites typically like to come in, and you've probably seen this in your industry around front stoops. Typically a front step or stoop or a porch is hollow underneath, and they fill it with sand and dirt and stuff like that. So
Trash and stuff.
and trash, lumber, whatever, right? We treat those areas as well with the Termidor, because we know those are conducive areas to future problems. And so in the rest of the house will be good. So typically if you have, a decent amount of clearance between the ground and your siding, you're always going to see an issue there pop up. So, I mean, you will visually see the issue if it pops up.
Sure.
So that's kind of we did that for a couple of reasons. Number one is to be a little bit more environmentally friendly.
Okay.
And not pump 500 gallons of chemical in the ground. And the other reason too, quite honestly, is a lot of times we would get out to a customer's house and, the customer would call us and say, hey, they're going to pour concrete in 3 days. And we would get out there and they had already done the concrete. So it's really hard to apply a chemical underneath the concrete.
Right.
When it's already there, unless you drill the concrete, and nobody wants to do that on a new construction.
Yeah. You don't want to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
So at this point, we get in there when the concrete's in.
Yeah.
Except for those key areas, and the siding is up, the roof is structured in, and then we can come in and treat where we need to treat.
Yeah. You guys came in right before they sprayed the foam insulation in the walls.
Yes.
And we were fighting weather because it was winter when we were doing it. And it took a while for it to dry, but every single contractor that came in that knew what we did was like so smart, because it's a peace of mind thing for me to know that I don't have this worry about, oh, I'm gonna have to have somebody come out and treat, because like it's more than likely not going to ever cause my house problems. It's a great feature. We're trying to do it. I know my dad's trying to do it on almost all his new constructions as part of it. And I recommend that anybody that is going to be building to call Ozark, have them come out and pre-treat that wood. Then it's just one less thing you have to worry about from that aspect.
Yeah, we offer extended warranties. We charge like $150 a year to warranty that treatment. That's not a structural warranty. We're not warranting any structural damage or anything like that. But basically what our warranty covers is if you ever encounter a termite issue, and we'll come out every year and inspect it. But if you ever encounter a termite issue at some point while that warranty is in effect, then we'll retreat that specific area at no additional charge to the customer.
Because treatments with all the other inflation in the world.
Yeah.
Treating for termites is not an inexpensive thing to do now.
No, a typical after construction is built treatment is probably, it ranges anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000.
Yeah.
And that's
5 years ago, we were 700, 800, 900.
Right.
And now we're
getting up there. Yeah. The chemical costs, obviously, most of our chemicals are petroleum based. So fuel goes up, we go up. So
join that club, right?
Yeah. And it's not just the cost for us to treat, but it's how much damage has been done in the meantime.
Right.
And how much is that going to cost you? That's probably going to cost you a lot more than us.
Yeah.
In a pre-treat, depending on square footage and the structure, a pre-treat before you build the home typically is anywhere between, $800 and $1,200 still, somewhere in there, depending on size. But in the grand scheme of things, if you're building a $400,000 house, is that really?
I think our house is like $1,200 to do it, and I didn't even think twice. Yeah. And one of the objections that we get in the real estate is, why do I need to pay this $110 to have this, or whatever it is now, to do a termite inspection when I'm purchasing a home? Well, here's my point of view from it is, $100 now is a heck of a lot less than 1,000 or 2,000 later, because you typically in our area, it is not part of the negotiation of repairs. It is, if you have it, it's completely separate. You have to treat for it, the seller. Now everything's negotiable. Let me make sure I get that disclaimer in there. However, we used to be where all the mortgage lenders out there were requiring it. FHA requires it, VA requires it. But if you get a conventional loan, it's not required.
Right.
That is not how it used. really used to be. We used to always have it on all transactions. And now in the world we live in, where people are trying to get deals in different ways and be strategic, this is one of the areas they've stopped doing as many in. And I am so against that, because the termite is the structural ghost of destruction, in a sense.
Yes.
I don't know a better way of saying it. Like, it is the one thing that you probably don't even know you have. You can be in a nice brand new home and have it. They know what they're looking for, and for
Right.
$110, Tony,
$110, yeah.
$110, they'll come out, they'll look at it, they'll let you know right away. Everywhere they have this whole numerical location thing and map and stuff they do,
Right.
and then you get the peace of mind of knowing that, you know, now they don't take the wall down, right? They're not,
No.
they don't come here and cut out the sheetrock and look behind. They're not running cameras in the walls or anything. It's all
Right.
visual, right? But typically, if termites are there, you're gonna see tracks, you're gonna see tunnels.
Right.
What else would?
So they typically leave, like you talked about, the paneling.
Mhm.
When we do an inspection, we do obviously inside and out. Crawl spaces, if they're accessible,
Yep.
we do those. Attics, we do all floors. So if you have a 3-story home, even though the subterranean termites come from the ground, we still look at the top level, because sometimes termites, there's been cases where they don't show themselves down low, and they show themselves on the 2nd story. So they're mystic. I mean, they have different patterns all the time. So you bring up a good point on the inspections. In Kansas, the typical rule of thumb is this has changed recently, but last I knew, it was 6 to 10 termite colonies per 1 acre of ground in Kansas.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So if you have an acre property,
Okay,
you can count on anywhere from 6 to 10 termite colonies being in that 1 acre. So
how big? Like, what's a colony?
A colony, well, it can vary. So thousands to millions of termites in one colony.
Okay. Now we're talking numbers. Okay.
Right. And what they do is they constantly, so picture a square 1 acre piece of property, and we'll just say 6 termite colonies are in that 1 acre. What they do is their sole purpose is to forage for food. And so you have all these little fingers coming off each colony looking for food constantly. So you plop a house down in the middle of that, then eventually, as they're looking, they're gonna find that property or that house, that structure at some point.
Okay.
So people ask us this, and I'm a little naive to it, but they ask me, is there really termites in Kansas? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, they're everywhere in Kansas. Yeah. If you put a wooden stake in the ground anywhere in Kansas, eventually you're going to get a termite issue in it. It's going to happen.
Okay, so I've heard that, because people ask me all the time, like, what's the odds my house has it, right? And I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I always say.
Right.
I'm probably gonna have to change my words now. I say this. I always say you got about a 50-50 chance. Like, yeah. you got this house that may, and that one doesn't, and that one may, and that one doesn't. So I just tell people, said, being that high of a chance of having the termites, you better find out for sure, because Kansas has termites.
Yes, I mean, you said earlier, new construction. We've actually done an inspection on a house. It's been quite a few years ago, but the house was less than 5 months old, and termites were already in it. They were starting to get into it. Some areas are more conducive, what we call conducive, because of different soil types, things like that. So you have
like
areas,
a high moisture, like something
right,
that has a lot of more or less clay. Does clay have anything to do with it?
Clay is any soil that is easier for them to move in. So clay is harder packed surface. Rocky areas, I would say like the Flint Hills, for example.
Sure.
The Flint Hills are going to have some termite issues still, but it may not be as bad as maybe your river bottom areas, like or river bottom areas like, so North Topeka, for example. North Topeka, used to be river silt.
Yeah.
That's really easy for the termites to move in.
Oakland, for instance.
Oakland has a sandy substance. Yeah. So there are areas that are more conducive than others, but
I think every house I've ever sold in Oakland had termites.
Yeah.
Every
At some point in
single one of
time.
them.
Correct.
Even our old house, when we sold it, my dad had rebuilt it, every inch of it.
Yeah.
Didn't even know it, and it had termites.
Yeah.
And that was really my first experience with them, because he had added this structure on as an addition, and they had gotten in there. The structure was maybe 2-3 years old, and it had already messed with the integrity of the structure.
Right.
So he had to go in there and get underneath the crawl space and pull the floor joists.
Yeah.
And what's amazing to me is how quickly they can do damage. That's why it is important to keep up on it through inspections and things like that.
Depending on the size of the colony, kind of a rule of thumb is a termite colony can consume 1 board foot per year. So if you look at a 2x4, you're looking at about that, so
so if it's been 2 or 3 years, I mean, the whole board could be gone.
it could be. And it depends. Like I said, it depends on the size of the colony. It depends on environment.
Sure.
The weather obviously plays some. One thing that people think is that termites, because it gets cold in Kansas, that they don't work in the winter. They do. They're a little bit slower now. They slow down some.
Okay.
We sometimes, in different circumstances, we'll use bait stations for our termite treatments.
I've seen those. They're like little hubs.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, what are these little soft saucer things out in the yard?
So those have pieces of wood in them and a cartridge in the top that has pure cellulose as well. And we have found termites active in those in late December, early January, even parts of February.
How long are those typically good for when you put those in the ground?
We have to maintain those every quarter. Some companies maintain them annually.
What do you mean by maintain? You have to put a new piece of wood?
Yeah, we come in every 3 months. We come in and we check them to see if there's termite activity in them.
Okay.
There's different things that can happen to the ingredients in there, like the wood and the cellulose. So there's certain types of molds that can repel termites. So if we find that mold in those stations, we will remove the contents, and then we'll move the station to a different spot. So there's a certain amount of maintenance that has to go with those.
This is another one of those things I've heard, is that it actually deters termites from going towards the structure, or even sometimes pulls them from the structure because of some of the cellulose in it. Or maybe I'm wrong, but like when you see those base stations, they really do help keep the termites to stay away from the house.
So what
do they ever come out of the structure if they're in the structure to go to those?
They will not.
They will not. Okay.
No. So once a termite finds a food source, they're locked on, and that's what. Yeah, they're not going to leave this place over here to find this place. However, what those stations are designed to do is, like I said earlier, termites are constantly foraging for food, and so basically what you're doing is you're putting multiple food sources in the ground for the termites to find.
Okay. That makes sense.
Once they find it, we put an actual chemical compound that's mixed with the cellulose into the station. Termites feed on that. They haul it back to their colony and they distribute it throughout the colony, and it kills off the entire termite colony. So really, different companies have different opinions of these things. My opinion on the bait stations is they're more of a supplemental treatment. So if you have 10 termite colonies in a 1 acre, and we put these stations out and we can eliminate 75% of those colonies, then there's going to be less termite pressure on your home. Sure. Some companies use them, say they will totally eliminate termite issues in a house. That may or may not be true, but I don't trust that theory.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense what you're saying.
We use a conjunction of chemical treatment and the bait stations as well.
Another question just popped in my head. Any difference for a termite with treated lumber to untreated lumber? Is that when that it helps harden it, or?
So treated 2x4, say you buy it, one of your local stores. That treatment, the treated lumber is good for a certain period of time. But again, just like anything else, over time, that chemical substance, right, it breaks down over time.
Makes
and
sense.
eventually they will get into that treated lumber. So we hear that a lot. People say, well, I built this place with treated lumber, I'm good. No, that's
Not
not going to
necessarily.
happen. No.
Might be for a little while. but-
Yeah, for a few months probably, but
Oh, that quick.
Yeah.
It can go
If
that
it's-
quick.
if it's exposed lumber, say like a deck or something like that,
Mhm.
it could be as short as a few months.
Oh,
before they get
wow.
into it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I want to switch gears real quick
Sure.
and then we'll wrap up here. Ticks.
Yes.
So as I've already seen personally, ticks are bad already this year.
Right.
In Kansas, I have heard a couple different times that the ticks in Kansas, and you may not know this, that's fine if you don't, but the ticks in Kansas don't carry Lyme disease, or they don't carry the dangerous version of it, or do you know anything about that?
I don't know 100% sure, but I do know from experience or people that I know, they have gotten Lyme disease from ticks here in Kansas.
Mhm.
And it was the type of Lyme disease, and I didn't really know that there was two different types of Lyme disease, but
Mhm.
they have gotten the type of Lyme disease where it's caused issues, health issues.
Okay.
So, there's other species of ticks. You have your deer ticks, you have your seed ticks, the really
Sure.
small ones. Different types of ticks can carry different types of illnesses with them.
Mhm.
I would say that in Kansas, you're just as susceptible to getting a tick-borne disease as
Is it
anybody
really?
else. Yeah,
Okay.
it might be more prevalent in other areas,
Mhm.
say like Colorado with the deer tick. But I'm going to tell you that Kansas probably has multiple, or you have a high chance of getting an issue or having an issue with them.
Okay, so say we have ticks, what is the best treatment to like what is the best way to either dispose of or get it off your skin, or like what have you heard, or what do you see in that?
I know that getting the head out is most important.
Yeah.
And I don't know of any specific tricks that would help you with that.
Yeah.
There are I would research it for sure, because there are some types of removal methods that people use that actually causes more harm than good, to where the tick will actually try to burrow itself further in.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
I've heard nail polish, different stuff like that to get them out. I don't know for sure on a
Yeah, I was
good
just
way to
curious.
get
I
them
know
out.
we mentioned ticks earlier and came into my head. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know that ticks are, I mean, they're heavy this year already.
They are.
Already. I was
2 weeks
like,
ago, I had a couple on me from out in
Yeah.
my in-laws place, but
and we haven't even gotten to the heat yet.
no. So if obviously if you hunt, you're going to run into those issues.
Yeah.
Use your off and different types of bug repellent stuff. For homes or businesses, the key is to keep shrubbery, keep grass cut low.
Okay.
Okay, tall grass
Sure.
is a problem. Keep overgrown vegetation away from the house as
Sure.
far as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we do is we come in, say you have a property that has a lot of vegetation outline your property line.
Yeah.
We come in we have a backpack fogger mister machine that we can mix up a chemical substance in there and treat the outline areas,
Okay.
which will help on mosquitoes and ticks as well.
Okay.
So mosquitoes, again, same thing. They obviously can carry some diseases. Keeping water areas that hold water dry is a key in that. Don't forget about downspouts, guttering, Clean your gutters out, make sure it's all dry.
Okay.
Low-lying areas in your yard, fill them with dirt. Tires that hold water, this time of year, anything that holds water.
Yeah.
Bird baths, clean them out constantly. Because
Okay.
mosquito larvae will breed in bird baths as well.
That makes sense.
So dump those on a regular occasion.
Dogs, water bowls.
Dogs, water bowls. Yep,
I
absolutely.
could see that being bad.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question.
Yep.
And I know that we could talk forever. I know
Sure.
You and I could talk forever.
Yeah. They may not want to hear what we got to talk
Well,
about.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that's true. No, I drew a blank on what I was gonna say. With Oh, I know it's okay. So home treatments, like people talk about, oh, I'll just go to Lowe's and get ortho or
Right.
so whatever. I don't know what they're called. Anyways, you got those home defense treatments.
Sure.
What is the benefit to using you guys compared to just going and getting something like that?
The main benefit is just knowing where to apply the chemical. So the stuff that's over your counter, your typical over the counter is, it's not safe. They may call it safe, but it's not safe. There is no chemical that is safe. Although most of the things that we use is probably more, it's safer than like your typical under the counter products, like your cleaners for your kitchen and bathroom. That stuff is pretty harmful.
Yeah.
Can be harmful. But the knowledge, we train our guys. We're in this industry every day. We know where to properly apply the chemical, opposed to just spraying a whole bunch of stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when you hear about a chemical being banned or outlawed or taken off the market, whatever it may be, 99% of the time, that's because a homeowner misused it and made somebody sick. Multiple times. It doesn't just help once, but so basically what the government does is they blame the product itself, but it's not the product, it's the way it was used.
That'd be like Roundup.
Basically like Roundup. Yeah, absolutely. People not using proper PPE. We use, gloves, glasses, long sleeve shirts, boots, and you'll see, you all see it this time of year. You'll see somebody out in their yard spraying with flip-flops and shorts on. Those types of practices are what get chemicals a bad name, basically.
Okay.
Is the misuse of them and not doing the proper treatment methods.
What about potency? Like from your product that your guys are using as a licensed person who has to have license to have some of these chemicals compared to a home defense.
So the other thing with your over-the-counter products is every Joe Blow uses them and they are overused. And a lot of your insects, or not a lot of your insects, but some of your insects like bed bugs and cockroaches, they have the ability to build up an immune system to that chemical or that product. So the more you use, the more it's being used, the more they have a resistance to it.
Interesting.
So for example, pyrethrins. A pyrethrin is a plant-derived chemical, and that's why it's considered safe.
Okay.
Which is a majority of what's in your over-the-counter stuff.
Sure.
A pyrethroid is a man-made version of that.
Okay.
Okay, so both of them are safe. You don't want to drink them, obviously.
Sure.
But they're deemed safe by the by the government. So the problem with that is, like I said, is people misuse it, they overuse it, and it builds up certain insects build up resistance to it. We have accessibility to all kinds of different stuff, right? So we go in and we don't use a whole lot of anything that you can buy over the counter, because, for example, bed bugs, they're saying are 99.9% resistant to the over the counter stuff.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Because the customer went out, bought it, sprayed it multiple times over and over again.
Sure.
And now they won't die from it. So we have multiple different avenues to take. But our job is not just about applying chemicals either. We also try to work on exclusion issues. So if you have holes or entry points that we see that can be sealed up in your house or business, we will point those out, or we will seal some of them up ourselves.
Sure.
So pest control really is proper inspection, excluding those insects or rodents out first.
Sure.
And then really the chemical side of things is the last resort type for us. If we can come into your house and completely get rid of all issues and not use any chemical, we're still doing our job. We're using our tools to be able to do that. So,
whoa, I learned a lot.
Yeah,
I appreciate your knowledge, man. This is what this is all about. I want you guys to see the professionalism that we can showcase with some of the amazing, talented people like Guy in our city of Topeka. you know, we both have been here a very long time, and we love the city, and we want support local, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks
I
for
really
having
appreciate
me.
you coming
Thanks
in
for having me.
and having this conversation. This is going to help a lot of people. This is going to help a lot of realtors. This is going to help a lot of consumers. And here is one of those shows that I am going to leave this show going, damn it, I should ask that question. Oh man, what about that question? Now I'm really going to be curious. I'm probably be Googling all kinds of stuff tonight.
Yeah, be careful with Google. There's bad information out there as well.
What is the bed bug stuff, and what is the termite stuff? And I mean, because that's really what I meant when I was like, and we could talk forever, because there is so many aspects of this business. From my point of view, don't try to handle your pest control yourself. You know, obviously I'd love for you to work with Ozark. Either way, get a professional to come and take care of your property. If it's not Ozark, find a professional who is knowledgeable like this, who does educate themselves, who stays up on their licensings and continues to educate their employees, because it is critical for your family, your home, and your biggest investment, that when we do get pests, because we share this universe with a lot of other creatures and insects, and not all bad, but when sometimes they get into your stuff. I mean, we never even got into roaches, right? And there is a whole nother world out there that when you do preventative stuff and you take care of it, that you can live in peace, you can sleep in peace. You can actually increase values of your home by keeping your home treated or pre-treated as you're building it.
Right.
So, Guy, thanks again for being here. All of his contact information, ways to contact him, are going to be in all of the descriptions of whatever you're listening this to, or YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this. I will link all of his contact information, Facebook, and phone numbers to get in contact with Guy. And we will hopefully help you in your home and family, and even businesses that are listening to this. They'll come in and work with you as well. So
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for being here. So till next time, you guys, this is Cole Boling with the Boling Group, and this is Topeka Business Uncensored.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Topeka Business Uncensored, where we interview business owners in the Topeka, Kansas area about their business and a little bit about them as a person. I'm Cole Boling, and I am one of the co-owners with my wife Jamie of the Boling Group real estate team with Keller Williams One Legacy Partners in Topeka. If you are thinking about selling, buying, or investing in real estate, I'd love to connect with you through our website at thebolinggroup.com.